Now only 17 days from the spring equinox, when the spiritual leader, Son of the Morning, prophesied great doom for Falador, the Ring of Peace prepare to enter the Feywild, where they hope to finally get answers they need from the Archfey Sivos. Eatmos and Hart can each feel the location of their Fey crossing, a portal to and from the Feywild that constantly shifts its location around Falador. As they lead the group towards it, they come across a drow cleric of the Raven Queen named Jamorlin. Malice seems to have an uneasy history with him and struggles to be cordial. The cleric is helping to guide a steady stream of survivors into Falador City for protection. He says the military has been deployed to help pass out food and organize shelter thanks to Commander Dawnsinger. Jamorlin confides in them that he's closed down the Cathedral of the Ravens temporarily just to help. He was the only one left there since Lanira Goldenwood took the force of the White Ravens on a mission. He tells them that she secretly went into the Shadowfell as commanded by the Raven Queen herself, but she stopped checking in with him. In parting, Malice asks him to let the king know that his adopted daughter is currently missing. Using the portal, the team enter the Feywild. The majority of them need time to adjust to an overload of their senses as sights, smells, noises, textures, even emotions are intensified. So Eatmos and Hart lead them on their journey. They continue on through the area ruled by the Seelie Court, but are assaulted by a group of dark creatures. For Lauren, Fey beings who betrayed the Seelie Queen and were supposed to be banished from the area. It's an intense battle, but the team is able to defeat them. They get to the border of the Seelie Court, where they find a cage-shaped house made of trees. The home of the hag Morrigan the Fate Stitcher, also known as Nana Mori. Eatmos and Hart have been here before and know the drill. She sets fate in motion by having willing participants draw from her magical decks. In fact, this is how Hart was originally given her Blink Dog companion named Blinky. Nana Mori tells the group that she and her two sisters in her coven made a bargain with Sivos. They will have to pass challenges from each of the hags in order to gain the information they seek. She offers them all some rum punch and freely provides information on what the challenges will be, reading the fates of 3 people from her, then providing 2 offerings of magical items to her sister, Granny Nightshade, and finally, 1 sacrifice to her sister, Asharne. Once the challenge begins, Nana Mori carefully pulls her new item from a pouch on her waist, a powerful artifact known as the Deck of Many Things. Eatmos immediately volunteers to be first. He pulls a card with a shining star moving across the surface and feels an increase in power as he levels up. Flair pulls the Sun card, feeling warmth spread into her body as she gains a permanent resistance to cold. And Mudgraw draws a card with an eye on it. He knows at any point in his life he can sit in meditation and receive a truthful answer to any question. Nana Mori announces that the challenge is complete, but offers Damon and Malice the chance to pull a card anyway. Malice refuses, but Damon steps up and pulls the key card. He gains the Infiltrator's Key, a legendary item with many abilities to get him into a place where he wants to go. After saying goodbye, she sends the group through the portion of the Unseelie Court that she's designed herself. It's perpetually bathed in moonlight, with tall grass and reaching flowers swaying in a non-existent breeze. They learn to move silently to avoid the attention of the poisonous flowers, as they continue their travels until they reach a single boulder in the grassy fields. Sitting atop that boulder is the hag, Granny Nightshade. She motions to a golden cauldron, half filled with a bubbling liquid that also gives off a purple mist. She requires 2 rare magic items to satiate her artifact called Tasha's Cauldron. Damon drops a standard health potion in, but it's rejected. The hag increases in size in response. After another failed attempt with the low-grade item, she grows again and starts to salivate. The group compare notes and decide to drop in a Rod of Absorption, along with a combination of a +1 dagger and an immovable rod. The cauldron fills with liquid and stops emitting mist, and the hag shrinks back down to normal size as she declares that the challenge is completed. She allows them entrance to the next area called the Shademurk Forest. With no sun, moon, or other celestial bodies to help tell time, the group decide to sleep before entering the new area. Mudgraw uses his staff to form the shelter again, though this time it resembles Nanamori's cage-like house from the outside. When they wake up, both Granny Nightshade and Nanamori are waiting for them. Nanamori tells them that Queen Titania is angry over someone allowing the Folaran to enter her domain. She was questioned rather harshly, but was able to convince the Queen that she played no part and broke no bargains. The Hags state the obvious, but advise caution on their journey through the Shademurk Forest. As Granny Nightshade sends them on their way, she explains that the forest is going through some renovations and isn't fully completed. They enter an area of pitch-black ground and sky. With no horizon, it's difficult for them to keep their bearings. The trees of the forest are white sketches, almost placeholders. They all begin to feel the vast emptiness, a void that messes with their minds. The group separates as they panic. All but Mudgraw go running in different directions, filled with fear and uncertainty. With light spells, he does his best to collect his friends, but time is also a factor. He feels it speed up and slow down in waves, adding to the confusion. Being more attuned to the Feywild, Hart and Eatmos feel the barrage of emotions the hardest. Eatmos lays down in the black void after running a long distance. He's about to give up fully until he hears a familiar voice. Queen Titania sheds a warm glow of summer as she tells him that he's still needed. She extends a hand and helps him to his feet. Feeling renewed, he finds his friends, including an unconscious Hart. The reunited Ring of Peace deduce that they've lost about 2 whole days in the Shademurk. As they gather themselves to move on, they end up surrounded by atrocious creatures that attack them. Malice knows them as creatures originally from the Underdark called Sorrowsworn. They sense dire emotions and feed off of them. He tells the group that they were permanently banished to the Shadowfell centuries ago. The group eventually defeats them and try to heal themselves. Mudgraw checks on Hart when he notices more of the Sorrowsworn approaching. But just then, an enlarged Granny Nightshade enters the clearing and tears one of the creatures in half. Nanamori tells them to keep moving. She transforms into a bird-like creature and hovers over to protect Hart. Granny Nightshade pushes them forward through the forest with her magic as they tear apart the Sorrowsworn. Dazed, they now find themselves at the edge of the Black Void, with a swamp full of willow trees before them. A shack half sinking into the swamp is the only building, and standing in the doorframe is the third hag, Asharnai. With the Eye of Vecna forcibly installed in her own eye socket, she tells them that Sivos is breaking many bargains in order to delay their journey. She seems disgusted by the idea of contract breaking, so she promises to make her challenge as quick as possible. Malice again is untrusting of her, but Eatmos tells them to show respect. As they argue, Mudgraw follows Asharnai into the hut, and the door shuts behind them. They discuss the terms of the sacrifice needed to complete the challenge. The hag feeds off personal tragedy and pain. Mudgraw tells her that he already lost his parents, and asks what more she wants. She uses the eye to peer into his life, and sees the joy he gets from cooking. She tells him if he agrees to never cook again, and to not fully enjoy the taste of food, she will consider the challenge completed. They shake hands and leave the shack to join the others. Asharnai declares to the group that all challenges were met, and they may now enter the swamp to talk to Sivos. She looks relieved as she confides that her and her sisters paid a high cost for their bargain with the Archfey, but the contract is now at a close. The group enter the swamp, finding themselves in a clearing of willow trees. Flair feels disgust as she recognizes that as a perverted version of the Gentle Grove. Weird creatures form a circle around them, with the Archfey Sivos in the center. He arrogantly welcomes them and distracts them well enough for them to briefly forget why they even made the journey to find him. He talks in circles and goes off in many tangents, but eventually gives them all the information they needed. He tells them that he's a collector of many magical artifacts that he uses as bargaining chips, and that he was able to get the purple orb out of the Vault of Oblivion. When the Harvester was released from his prison in the ruins of 2022 AD, he felt the orb and approached Sivos with a deal. He wanted the orb to bring back his master Sozu, and needed necrotic energy to siphon into his Soul Harvester battery, hidden away in the Shadowfell. It was the very same item that Rain was searching for nearly 100 years ago. The Harvester planned to raise as many undead as possible in order to destroy them all at once, to let his battery absorb the necrotic energy and fill up. He gave Sivos the means to unleash a curse into the Feywild, changing Fey into Dark Fey, who would also fall with the burst of necrotic energy. The Harvester hinted that possible political rivals in both the Seelie and Unseelie courts might succumb to the curse, allowing Sivos to move to a higher status. When asked where the Harvester was planning on using the orb to bring back Sozu, the Archfey told them that the location they sought was east of the city of Gloomrot, in the Shadowfell. With a devilish smile, he offered to take them there if the right bargain was struck. But another being, stepping out from his hiding spot amongst the trees, intervened. The champion of the Raven Queen was granted access to the Feywild because Sivos broke a long-standing bargain among the Fey and the Shadowfell to keep the Sorrowsworn at bay. He explains to Sivos just how badly he miscalculated by breaking so many bargains as he points to 3 hags entering the swamp. They are now services of justice from Queen Titania. Bringing a fully healed heart along, the hags begin their battle with Sivos as Granny Nightshade once again uses her magic to speed the group along. They find themselves at the end of the swamp, where there's another Fey crossing portal. The champion explained that instead of going back to the material plane, this portal will take them to the Shadowfell. He told them of how the Raven Queen felt the presence of the Soul Harvester battery when it came out of hiding some days ago. She ordered Lanira Goldenwood to bring her full force of White Ravens, warriors dedicated to the Raven Queen, to attack the cultists guarding the battery and to destroy it. In the attack, the White Ravens were defeated and Lanira was captured. With all the information they need and the destination at hand, the Ring of Peace make a rough plan to travel to the area east of Gloomrot. They knew they had 3 objectives: rescue Lanira, find a way to destroy the Soul Harvester battery, and to destroy the Harvester before he brings back Sozu. Malice doesn't trust the champion, a being he says abandoned his father over 100 years ago. The champion admits that he was part of the decision while he still lived, and still regrets it, but Malice isn't accepting any apologies. They give each other attitude from that point on. The Ring of Peace, along with Heart, enter the Shadowfell. The champion flies away in search of reinforcements in the city, as the rest of the group approach a hill to the east, where they plan to stop the Harvester once and for all.